Question Lane. Solving problems through the process of questions and answers.
I looked at another article that you sent me earlier about, I think it's Senate Bill 456, where they spoke about offering a set-aside amount of money from excess lottery funding to go towards some of these scholarships for dual enrollment students. There was not really a budgeted amount because I read the bill. Do you think that the state is really invested in trying to expand this program and to make it more available to people who might not be able to afford these type of programs, or is this something that is seen as a program that could be expanded in the future, but not a lot of emphasis should be put on it now?
Well, I think the state is has always been quite interested in dual enrollment. In part, I think we have an extremely conservative state legislature, and I think part of what drives all of this is a mistrust of higher education, and for kind of political and ideological reasons. And so I think for a lot of our state legislators, the more college that happens with high school teachers they trust, the better. So I think that's one of the reasons that they support this. The other reason, or the other element to this, is I think there's an increasing sense that colleges, this kind of just hoop or hurdle you're expected to jump over, that, and everything that happens there is kind of arbitrary and pointless, and that the easier we make it for people to get through that process and get this credential, the better. And so the fewer of those, and Gen Ed is, I think, in particular seen, and it's Gen Ed courses, the introductory chemistry, introductory history, introductory English, and so forth, that's getting done in the high schools. Those courses, those types of courses are, I think, often perceived as almost like a kind of a tax that's levied on students. Okay, you want to study nursing or business? Well, you're going to have to take all these, you have to learn about Shakespeare first, right? Even if you have no interest in Shakespeare. But if you want to be a nurse, we're going to force you to sit through the Shakespeare class. And so I think for a lot of our state legislators, they would just as soon see all of that go away and the students just be able to, get a nursing degree and be done with it. And so they have I think they're genuinely committed to making this work for as many people as possible. The lottery funds, they're already having trouble meeting at least in Arkansas, we had this lottery scholarship. It has some other less gambling sounding name, like the Hope Scholarship or something, but everybody calls it the lottery scholarship, where we created a lottery. The revenue from that was going to pay for scholarships, and they've had to steadily cut back the amount of money they pay out for scholarships. It's now a kind of a tiered system where the longer you stay in school, the more they pay you. But the initial payout for the first year is lower than it was when the program started. So if that program has enough surplus revenue to start paying for people to take classes in high school, I don't know if that's a reasonable way to try to find money to pay for that. But I do think that Arkansas state legislators and state legislators in many states are genuinely committed to making these programs available to as many people as possible. I think it's a terrible idea, but I think it's what they're trying to do and going to do.
Yeah, I was analyzing the bill, and I didn't see a merit component. I didn't see an income component to these scholarships. I just saw basically if you apply for these type of programs and you complete an assessment success plan, then you would be eligible, but there's no merit, income, or anything to say that these are specific standards that you have to have. Here's the reason for these standards, and this would be something that might lead you to get this type of scholarship.
Yeah, I think that's right. And that's sort of, there was an article, I can't remember where I saw it, but just yesterday or the day before, it was either the Chronicle of Higher Education at the Times or something, about the city of Kalamazoo's experiment with free college. The city of Kalamazoo created a system maybe 10 years ago or something, whereby if you were a student in the Kalamazoo schools and you were accepted to college, this program would pay your tuition, not your fees or not your living expenses, but it would pay your college tuition. And you didn't even have to go to school in state, I don't think. You could even go to school out of state. And I believe the thing is still going. And so they did a study of who benefited from this. And the conclusion was it pretty much benefited people who were probably going to go to college anyway. They just they didn't have to pay their tuition, but their families still had the means to pay living expenses and so if you went to University of Michigan, your tuition would be paid, but your family would then only have to pay for your apartment and food and so forth. And so for upper middle class families that already had four-year colleges in sight, this turned out to be a huge boon. And people actually started moving into Kalamazoo out of the suburbs in order to take advantage of the program. For poorer students and frequently also minorities, they tended to go to community college. Their graduation rate from both four-year and two-year colleges went up only incrementally, like from 23% to 24% or something like that. And they appear to have benefited far less from the free college thing than the sort of upper middle class white and Asian students. So I suspect, and I don't think that was anybody's intention when they started the free college program in Kalamazoo, but that was the effect. And my guess is that a similar thing is going to happen with this program in Arkansas to help defray the cost of these. People who already had the $200 to pay for the class or the $100 or whatever it is are not going to have to pay that. And people who didn't have it may, it may help them. It probably will help them, but it'll still probably provide a significant benefit to people who were already in those classes and already benefit. It'll simply make that first year of college even cheaper for them.
Senator Joyce Elliott from Little Rock, Arkansas, she was quoted in this article, Colleges in State Embrace Younger Learners. She was quoted saying that she wanted an intrusive outreach to reach those students who may be first in their families to attend college or are unaware of these opportunities. Is there some type of database or some type of push that you see in the state of Arkansas to make these type of programs available to the people who need them most?
I don't know. My guess would be no. But that it also would not be terribly difficult to figure out where those resources were most needed. If you're not sort of up on Arkansas demography, there are three sort of regions of the state. There's the kind of mountainous northwest, which is almost all white. There's the Delta, which is probably 50-50 black and white. And then there's southern Arkansas, which is sort of a pine timber region that has sort of pockets that are all white and pockets that are almost all black. And the Delta, I mean, if you wanted to really focus on making those things available to minorities, these types of opportunities available to minorities, it'd be very simple to focus on high schools in the Delta. So I don't know if you would need an elaborate database. It's the kind of segregated nature of the high schools is such that it'd be pretty easy to identify the ones that most need those types of opportunities.
Also, the Department of Higher Education Secretary, I believe her name is Markham, she made a comment in the same article about seeking data from these colleges and universities to track by race and income to see how effective these type of programs are in terms of enrollment, graduation, and things of that nature. But she said that's something that is going to be focused on in the future. Do you think that that's something that should be tracked immediately to try to get, I guess, the best and most sincere outcome if the focus is actually expanding this type of program?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be to know what actually happens to students who take that route. My guess, though, is that what they will do is simply try to see how many of those students graduate. I think a much more interesting thing and to do would be to look at the performance of students who or to compare the performance of students who do their gen ed in college as opposed to students who do their gen ed in high school. If you had students with comparable ACT scores and comparable GPAs in two different pools and you could compare outcomes for them, I think it would tell you something about the effectiveness of doing all that stuff in high school. And I know our College of Math and Science here started an inquiry like that, where they were looking at how, I think it was chemistry majors who did their Gen Chem 1 and Gen Chem 2 in high school did compared to chemistry majors who did their Gen Chem 1 and Gen Chem 2 in college. And what they found, if I remember correctly, is that the ones who did the Gen Chem 1 and 2 here at the university did better in upper level courses than the ones who had taken those courses in high school and then jumped into them in college. So I think that would be a really interesting, to do a bigger, more rigorous controlled version of that study would be really useful, because I think it would tell you something about the consequences of those courses. I think the implicit assumption of the Department of Education or Department of Higher Education in Arkansas is that those courses are a good thing and that they are looking for evidence to show that as many people as possible are benefiting from them, rather than testing whether they are in fact a good thing or not.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay up to date for more videos by clicking the bell notification icon and following our social media. For any of the people, groups, companies, or videos that were referenced in this video, don't forget to check the description and or the pinned comment section. The question lane, solving problems through the process of questions and answers.